The wind came hard out of the west that morning, pushing dust across the empty street like it was trying to erase the town altogether, and Cole Mercer stood in the doorway of the livery stable watching it roll, hat pulled low, eyes tired in a way no sleep could ever fix. He had buried too much of his life under that same kind of dust, a wife gone to fever, a baby girl lost somewhere between grief and the long miles of bad luck. Folks said time healed all wounds, but Cole knew better. Time just taught a man how to limp without complaining, and as the sun climbed over the hills, turning the boards of the buildings gold and tired, he told himself it would be another day like all the others, quiet, lonely, and safe in its predictability. He did not know that before the sun dipped again, the past would come walking back into his life on small boots and trembling courage. 10 years earlier he had ridden into Red Bluff with a laugh in his chest and a future riding shotgun beside him. Mary had smiled even when the road was hard, her eyes bright with plans. Their little girl barely old enough to grip his finger, but the land was cruel back then. Sickness took what bullets could not, and when Mary died, Cole felt something inside him crack clean through. He buried her on a hill overlooking the river, swore he would raise their daughter right, but fate had one more twist waiting. A fire at the homestead, smoke, shouting, neighbors pulling him back while he searched the ashes, screaming a name that never answered. They never found the child. Some said she wandered into the river, others said strangers passed through that week. Cole stopped listening. Grief hollowed him out until only work remained. Now Red Bluff was smaller, meaner around the edges, a place for men who wanted to disappear without fully dying. Cole worked horses, fixed fences, kept his head down. The townsfolk respected him in the quiet way reserved for men who carried heavy ghosts. Children stared at him like he was carved from the old days. Women nodded, polite but distant, and Cole liked it that way. He told himself he was done hoping, done believing in miracles. The West had burned that foolishness out of him. All he wanted was to finish his days without reopening scars that never truly healed. Near noon he noticed a girl standing across the street by the mercantile. Small, thin, her dress patched and dusty from travel. She looked lost in the way only children and broken adults could look. At first he thought nothing of it. Towns saw their share of strays. But then she lifted her face, and something struck him hard enough to steal his breath. Her eyes were the same deep brown as Mary's, the same shape he saw every morning when he washed his face in cold water. Cole turned away fast, heart hammering, telling himself grief made men see things that were not there. But when he looked back, the girl was still there, watching him now. Like she had been waiting for him all along. Cole tried to busy himself, ran a brush over a nervous mare, checked a loose board, anything to keep from walking across that street. But his hands shook, and memory crept in uninvited. The way his daughter's fingers curled when she slept, the sound of her laugh chasing fireflies at dusk. He swallowed hard, reminding himself that child was gone. The world did not give back what it took, especially not to men like him. Still, the girl began to walk toward the stable, each step careful, like she feared being chased away. Townsfolk glanced up, curious, sensing something brewing they did not understand. She stopped a few paces from him, close enough now that Cole could see the dust on her cheeks, the faint scar on her chin. His chest tightened. That scar. He remembered a fall near the creek, remembered blood and tears, and promising it would be all right. His breath came shallow, and he cursed himself for letting his mind run wild. Children shared faces all the time. The world was full of coincidences. Yet when she spoke, her voice small but steady, it cut through every lie he had built to survive. She asked his name first, polite, like she had been taught, and when he answered, her eyes widened just a touch. Like a door opening, the girl told him she was called Emma, that she had come a long way with a woman who said she would be safe here, that the woman had left her with a coin and a promise to return, a promise that had already gone sour. Cole listened, every word tightening the knot in his chest. Emma said she had been told to look for a man with dark hair and sad eyes, a man who worked horses. When she said that, the world seemed to tilt. Sounds faded. All Cole could hear was the blood rushing in his ears. He wanted to deny it, wanted to send her away before hope did its damage. But his feet would not move. Emma took one last step closer, close enough now that Cole could see himself reflected in her eyes. She hesitated, fingers twisting the hem of her dress, fear and hope warring on her face. Then she lifted her chin, courage winning out, and asked the question that shattered the careful grave he had built over his heart. "Are you my daddy?" The word hung there between them, heavier than any coffin, and Cole Mercer, a man who had faced guns and graves without flinching, felt his knees weaken as the past came alive and looked up at him. Waiting for an answer, the word Daddy echoed in Cole's head long after the sound of it faded into the noise of the street. He did not answer right away, because answers had ruined his life before, because hope was a dangerous thing to hand a child if you were not certain you could keep it. He crouched slowly, so he was eye level with her, the way he used to do when his daughter was frightened by thunder, and that memory nearly broke him all over again. His voice came rough when he finally spoke, asking her who told her to say that, who sent her here. Emma did not flinch. She told him she had always known she had a father, that the woman who raised her said he was a good man who lost everything in a fire. She said she remembered smoke, remembered being carried, remembered waking up somewhere strange with someone else calling her daughter, and as she spoke, pieces of a shattered past began fitting together in ways Cole had sworn never to consider. He took her inside the stable, not because he believed her yet, but because the street had grown too quiet. People pretending not to stare while listening with every ear they had. Inside, the smell of hay and leather wrapped around them, grounding him in something real. Emma sat on a crate, swinging her legs like she had every right to be there, like this place belonged to her. Cole asked about the woman who brought her, learned her name was Ruth, a midwife who traveled from town to town, who had taken Emma after the fire when she found a half-burned homestead and a crying child wandering near the trees. Cole felt sick hearing it, because it sounded too possible, too close to the truth he had buried. Ruth had raised Emma until sickness took her last winter, leaving the girl with little more than stories and a direction. Red Bluff, look for the man with sad eyes. Cole pressed his fingers into his palms until pain steadied him, because belief was rushing in fast, and it terrified him. Word spread anyway, it always did. By mid-afternoon Sheriff Dalton stepped into the stable, boots heavy, expression cautious. He asked questions in that careful tone men used when they knew a thing could turn ugly. Cole answered as best he could, told him he did not know if the girl was his, that he would not claim her without proof. Dalton nodded, said there were ways, church records, birth notes, people who remembered the fire, but his eyes softened when he looked at Emma, who sat quietly, brushing a horse's mane like she had done it all her life. The sheriff warned Cole that some folks might not like a stranger stirring up old business, especially a child with no papers and a story full of holes. Cole understood the warning for what it was. Red Bluff liked its quiet, liked its ghosts. Settled and silent that night, Cole could not bring himself to leave Emma alone. He made up a bed for her in the small room behind the stable, gave her his coat when the cold crept in. She thanked him like she was afraid kindness might be taken back, and that hurt worse than any doubt, as she slept, curled small and trusting. Cole sat awake, staring at her face lit by lantern glow. Every line felt familiar, every breath matched a memory. He told himself again that coincidence was a cruel trick, that grief shaped faces where none existed, yet his heart would not listen. He stepped outside into the night, stars sharp overhead, and for the first time in 10 years, he spoke to Mary out loud, asking forgiveness for even hoping, asking for a sign he did not deserve. Morning brought answers and more questions. An old woman from the church came forward, said she remembered Ruth passing through years ago with a little girl, said the child had the same name Cole's daughter once had, Emma. That hit him like a blow. He had not told anyone the name, not since the fire. The sheriff returned with more news. A rancher upriver remembered pulling Cole back from the flames while someone else carried a child away. A woman, small, determined. It lined up to clean, to ignore, and yet Cole hesitated, because accepting this truth meant reopening a grave he had learned to survive beside. Emma watched him through all of it, eyes searching his face for answers he could not yet give. Trouble came with the truth. As it always did, a man named Harlan Pike rode into town claiming Emma was his niece. Said Ruth had promised the girl to him before she died. Said Cole was chasing ghosts and would ruin the child's life with false hope. Cole saw the lie in Pike's eyes, saw hunger there, not love, but that did not make the danger less real. Pike had papers, or claimed to, and Red Bluff had seen enough lawless years to take any claim seriously. Dalton warned Cole to be careful. Custody battles in the West were not fought in courtrooms alone. Emma heard the argument, clutched Cole's hand without thinking, and that simple act made his decision for him. Doubt or not, He would not let her be taken by a man who looked at her like property. Cole stood his ground, told Pike the girl would stay until the truth was proven. Pike spat dust and threats, promised to return with proof, or worse. When he rode out, the town felt different, like a storm had passed close enough to taste. Emma asked if she had done something wrong. Cole knelt and told her no, that grown men carried their own sins, and for the first time, he said the words she had asked for, without knowing it. He told her she was safe. His voice did not shake when he said it, and that surprised him most of all that evening. As the sun bled red over the hills, Emma fell asleep at the table while Cole cleaned up, her head resting against his arm like it belonged there. He did not pull away. Fear still lived in him, doubt still whispered, but something stronger had taken root. A fierce, steady resolve. He realized then that even if the truth ended differently than his heart wanted, he would fight for her, because blood or not, she had walked into his life, carrying the same eyes, the same scars, and the same unanswered prayers, and that was enough to change everything. 17. Harlan Pike returned 3 days later with dust on his coat, and 2 men riding his shadow. The kind of men who looked at trouble like opportunity. He carried folded papers and a thin smile, said he had proof now, said the girl belonged with him by law and promise. Sheriff Dalton took the papers slow, read them twice. The town gathered without meaning to, because something final always pulled the crowd. Cole stood between Emma and Pike without thinking, feeling the old weight settle into his bones, the weight of choosing a side and living with it. Pike's papers spoke of guardianship signed in a shaky hand, Ruth's name scratched at the bottom, but Dalton frowned, noting dates that did not sit right, names misspelled, ink too fresh for something claimed old. Pike grew louder, called Cole a broken man chasing a ghost, called Emma a confused child filling her head with stories, and that was when Emma stepped forward on her own, small but steady, saying she remembered the fire, remembered a man with soot on his face screaming her name, remembered being lifted and carried and losing sight of him. Her voice did not waver, and the crowd felt the truth of it, like a change in the wind. Dalton made his choice then, said the matter would not be settled by threats or forged papers, said Pike and his men would leave Red Bluff by sundown, or be run out in irons. Pike laughed sharp and ugly, promised this was not over, promised Cole would regret stealing what was not his, but he rode out just the same, anger trailing him like smoke. When the dust settled, silence fell heavy, and Cole realized his hands were shaking, not from fear this time, but from the weight of what he had done. He knelt in front of Emma, searching her face one more time, and asked her again, gentle, if she was sure about what she remembered. She nodded, said she had waited a long time to find him, that she knew him by the way her heart felt when she saw him. Cole pulled her into his chest, then, careful like she might break, and something inside him finally gave way. Not grief, but release. The days that followed were not easy. Truth rarely was. Dalton confirmed the papers were false, tracked Ruth's travels through church notes and midwife logs. Every trail led back to the fire and the lost child. The town began to speak of it as fact, before Cole allowed himself to say the words out loud. Emma Mercer, his daughter. The first time he said it to himself, it felt strange and right all at once, like wearing a coat broken in by someone else but shaped for him all the same. He took Emma to the hill where Mary was buried, told her about her mother, about the woman who laughed at hard times and believed in better days. Emma listened quiet, placed a wildflower at the marker, and whispered hello, like she had always known her. Cole learned how to be a father again, one careful step at a time. Learned that grief did not vanish but made room. Learned that love could come back without asking permission. Emma learned the rhythms of the stable, the way Red Bluff breathed and paused. She laughed more each day, the sounds startling folks who had never heard joy echo off those buildings. Some evenings Cole would catch her watching him with that same searching look she had worn the first day, like she was making sure he was real. He always was, always there. That became the promise between them. Unspoken but solid. Trouble did not disappear just because Pike rode away. Whispers followed, questions lingered, but Cole answered them by staying, by standing tall and steady, by being seen doing the work of a father without apology. When Pike tried once more to send word, threatening courts and claims, Dalton shut it down. Red Bluff had chosen its truth, and the West respected a town that stood together. Pike faded into rumor, then into nothing at all, and the danger passed like a bad season. Winter came soft that year. snow dusting the hills instead of burying them. Cole fixed up the old homestead by the river, the one he thought lost forever, rebuilt it board by board with Emma handing him nails and stories, laughter-filled rooms that had only known silence. Some nights were still hard, memories still sharp, but they faced them together, father and daughter, learning that the past did not have to own them to be honored on a clear spring morning. Cole saddled 2 horses and took Emma riding along the ridge. The land stretched wide and honest before them. He told her this place was hers as much as his, that she belonged not just to him but to the life they would build. Emma smiled up at him, same eyes, same fire, and said she knew that she had always known she would find her way home. The word home settled into Cole's chest like it had been waiting there all along. Years later, folks would talk about the day a man who thought he had lost everything was found again by a little girl brave enough to ask one question. But Cole never thought of it that way. To him, it was simple and impossible all at once. Love lost had come back wearing a different shape, carrying dust and courage, and the same eyes that once promised a future, and in a hard land that rarely gave second chances. A father and daughter claimed theirs, together,